Welcome back, Ryan Harper podcast. Woohoo! Woohoo! Got Ron Carlson in here today. Ron Carlson is a real estate investor extraordinaire, but he's also very, very kind of quiet about successes and whatnot. And he's one of those guys that you don't really know who he is or how, successful he is until you actually start just listening to conversations.
I don't know what to say with that. Yeah, we do things that people don't know that we do, and we like it that way.
Well, that's the whole point of this. What do you do? How would you it's like, hey, I'm Ryan. Who are you? How do you describe yourself?
Like a 30-second elevator pitch?
Sure, go for it. That'll be the shortest podcast of all time. Go.
Yeah. We do a lot of stuff in real estate, but we control everything that we do. So we buy it, we fix it, we sell it, we control the rehab, we own our finance, and we have private money that we use, so we can do larger deals faster, quicker, without any hindrances. You don't have to wait for banks, you don't have to wait for surveys, you don't have to wait for that. And essentially, I built a business that runs itself. Like, I buy and sell houses every day. I almost never physically see a property that I buy. I almost never physically look at a property to rehab it. I don't touch it. I don't rehab it. I don't sell it. My team does that, but I manage my team to be able to do that for me.
So recently you got a little shit because you caught a little shit because on Facebook you posted something about you're tired of buying one property, just bring me all of them at the same time or something. And then people were like, didn't you say somebody was like, show me your proof of funds? And you're like,
yeah. So when you're doing larger transactions, like we were talking before about note buying, most of the time those buyers aren't like, hey, show me your proof of funds, right? The only guys that are asking for proof of funds are the guys that haven't done large deals. Mm-hmm. So I got a lot of flack because people were like, yeah, you don't have any money. You're just daisy chaining. You're going to try to sell all these deals separately. But that wasn't the case. I just figured out that it's just as much work for me to do one deal as it is to do 10 deals. Like, I'm working on a 27-door package deal right now. I don't know, I'll probably have 2.5 hours into it. Well, that's so much easier to have 2 or 3 hours into something than to take down one deal and have the same 2 or 3 hours into it.
Right. Well, it's funny because we were literally, Tommy and I were just talking about this, I think right before you walked in, about how it's, if you see something on sale, buy it, you're going to use it anyway. So something like kind of similar. Like if you see a whole case of your favorite toothpaste on sale, just buy it because you're going to use it. So in a sense, you're saving money.
Sure.
I think there's relevance to that.
Yeah, I mean, you're buying in bulk, right? I mean, how much more? It's just the same amount of work to go to the store and buy one thing of toothpaste than it is to buy 30 things of toothpaste.
Right.
So yeah, we're trying to do bigger package deals, and we're moving into some development. I'm going to start buying in opportunity zones. I'm going to start buying more commercial real estate. But there again, if I'm going to do a deal, I'm just going to try to do bigger deals. Well,
Jason Witherspoon is a huge fan.
Oh yeah, he's got the T-shirt and the bobblehead.
Yeah, well, he was saying he's your hero. You are his hero.
Oh, that's sweet.
He said haters need to lay off.
Huh. So he was sticking up for me.
He's sticking up for you, man.
Yeah, I've tried to do some big deals with him. He's always into wild stuff, but you should bring him on board. He does
of course
crazy stuff.
Of course, like pretty much anybody I've ever talked to at Propelio will probably be coming through here at some point.
That's awesome.
It's like we were just talking about, what kind of guests do you want in here? Is it just real estate? It's like everybody. If somebody can have an interesting conversation, and then you said, well, then why am I here?
That's true. And then you said, yep, this is going to be a very short podcast, but we'll see how long we go.
It is. The thing is, though, it's funny because we literally were on the phone, I think a week ago, getting set up for this, and just talk about me and my recent entrepreneurial status.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I credit you for not the idea, but more the reminder of, because for the past year, one of the things I've been wanting to do is do my own show, build my own podcast, build out a thing with the purpose of, yes, doing the affiliate stuff, but also being that deal maker person where if you know everybody anyway, if you know the buyers and you know the sellers and you know the money, work on being a deal structurer versus just doing this other stuff.
Sure.
But at the same time, when it becomes not a slap in the face, but it's a very apparent and a certain need of, oh, by the way, you're unemployed and you need to make money now, some of those aspirations get forgotten. And you brought up was like, because I was pitching you that idea of an event, and you're like, well, that's cool, but that sucks. Why don't you do this instead?
I did tell you that sucks.
Well, I mean, it's true.
And then you did it anyways.
I
so
did
my
something
advice was like,
no,
not
no.
too meritable.
How dare you?
The event I pitched you was having the buyers and the sellers and all the same elements of the event I'm doing, but then have people that have deals present the deals, but before they present them, send them through all the hard money lender people to already attach, like, oh, by the way, Bay Mountain is going to loan this. Easy Street will loan on this. Jet will lend on this.
Right.
And then so-and-so won't lend on this. So therefore, when it gets presented to everybody, boom, you already have not a guaranteed loan, because obviously there's still the personal factor, but at least the underwriting's already done. And now it's just the person factor.
Sure.
And you were like, no. Oh, no drop? You were like, no, that's in theory, that's cool. But the problem with wholesaling, the problem with this world is shit moves so quickly. By the time the event happens, those deals are gone already. So
yeah, and one of the things that I was saying about that is in our industry in real estate, there's a lot of people who are boosting themselves up, take pictures in front of Ferraris and saying that they're doing deal flow and they're not. And this has happened to me. I made a post about it a couple of weeks ago, where I literally bought a house from somebody and then they posted it for sale the next day on websites, but I had already purchased it from them. And all they're trying to do is, build a buyer's list or go out and market a little bit, but they're using merchandise that's not even available anymore to sell. And they tell you, oh, it's not available, but catch me on the next one.
yeah,
And it's all strategy in this industry that people use.
well, that was a big debate several years ago when I worked with a couple of key people. One person's opinion was never have a short list, always blast every property you have, because if you don't, eventually your short list buyers will dry up and you won't have a buyer's list.
That's correct.
The other guy was like, I want it gone, and I know if I just call up Ron's going to buy it.
Yeah.
So where do you fall on that coin? Do you fall of, hey, have the large Rolodex, or do you have your key people?
So we wholesale a little bit. I try to keep everything I can because I'm a house hoarder, right? I hoard houses. I don't like to get rid of something I work so hard to work for. But I have both. I have a short list and a long list. My short list is typically people who I've worked at that will pay a premium. And then I have my long list of, hey, these, might not even know these people. They're on my list somehow, some way.
Right.
And I call my short list first because they move fast and they pay a premium. And I would call you first if you would pay a premium too. But the problem with that is my premium list then sees me pitch the property at a lower price. And now my premium list is like, oh, I thought we were friends. You should give me the best price when it comes to it. So that's the constant battle that we fight is, hey, if you pitch it to your general list at a cheaper price and then your premium buyer gets mad because they think that you're overpaying, we don't look at it like that. We're like, hey, look, you're a hedge fund company. We know you're going to pay X amount on the dollar. Why wouldn't I try to get the biggest bang for my buck? And we sell them a ton of property. So I don't know. They can get mad that we pitch it somewhere else. They can still buy it at my lower price, but so many times they're buying it at my higher price before I even pitch it to the rest of my list, and they make my life easy. I've closed with them. They know my transaction. They know my paperwork. They're ready to rock and roll, and it's just a matter of going to the closing table. They don't mind putting up earnest money or option money. Or anything
So if you are wholesaling, like how many wholesale deals are you doing? Like what's your volume?
We probably do like 10, 12 deals a month or something like that. We're probably buying 8 a month from 6 a month, something like that, 6 to 8 a month from wholesalers. And then we probably flip into and wholesale in 2 or 3 a month. It depends.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we look at it like, hey, if the deal comes across, we're never going to wholesale someone else's deal. But if we have a deal, we're going to try to take it down, whether that's flipping it to a new buyer or taking it down ourselves. And a lot of times we actually will close on it, get the people out of the property, and then turn around and do like a wholesale on it, or then try to sell it to my wholesale buyers list because I control the transaction. Sometimes speed is the name of the game, not numbers. Hey, I own it, I control it. Now I can take 10 days to sell it to my wholesale list versus, hey, I couldn't get anybody in before and there's a pit bull in the closet, you know.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I was going to comment on is you said something along the lines of, hey, you inspired me to do some other stuff. And one thing that I've always lived by is if I can help somebody, like anytime I go networking or anytime I do anything, I'm just like, here's my cell phone. If I can help you in any way, feel free. I probably get 15 phone calls a week. 10 of those phone calls are some girl in the Philippines asking me if I can be part of their buyers list, which is funny too.
So do you think that's because you have a standoff personality, or do you think is it standoff personality? Is it people don't know you, or they just aren't aware that they can call you?
I think a lot of people are scared of the sale. So a lot of people that are CEOs and CFOs and people think that they don't have an open door policy. I found the opposite. Almost every single person that I've actually wanted to eat lunch with, they're like, yeah, let's go eat lunch. Sometimes I didn't even know them. Sometimes I was in the area. I've been out of the state. Hey, I'm new to the area. I just want to know what's going on in real estate here. You want to go grab lunch with me? And I've almost never been denied. So there is a time value perception there, but really people just don't call because they think that I won't answer the phone call. I won't give them the time of day. And I'm hoping now that, I don't want my phone to blow up and people now take advantage of me, because there's a place where you need to add value as well, right? I don't want to just train a bunch of newbies how to do real estate and they pick my brain forever and ever. But let's just say that I just met with a wholesaler yesterday. He's been asking me to eat lunch with him for a long, long time. And I wasn't pushing him off. We just kept moving dates around and finally hung out with him. And that's going to be a good relationship. We know each other. We have good names in the marketplace. Why not know your network? Why not? There's so many times where people have called me, hey, we had this conversation. Can you help me out? Or, hey, you told me that you do this. Can you help me out? One thing that I'm relentless about is if I know somebody can do something, I'm going to call them and figure out if they can help me or not. And even then, most people are willing to help me out. Chris Fast called me the other day. I don't even know him.
I have 2 missed calls this morning.
Oh, yeah. He called me the other day. He's like, man, this is going on in my company. What do you want? What should I do? And I gave him some advice. And then I followed up with him. I said, hey, what'd you end up doing? He's like, well, we're addressing it. And then I was like, well, I got questions for you. And he was like, I'm not the right guy. Maybe you can go call this guy.
Right.
And I've never done a transaction with him. I just think he's a good guy. And if I can help him out, I'm going to try to help him out.
But eventually it goes back to like, you're established in quote unquote real. He's established quote unquote real. The fact that y'all are able to rely on each other, it may not mean business yesterday or today, but eventually there's a strong possibility of doing work together.
Sure. I find that when I try to go out of my way to help people out, that I almost never do business with them, but they will send me referrals.
Yeah.
Or I might use their friend's product or something like that. I typically don't do business with the person that I've poured into or they poured into me. I just bought a house from a friend of mine that I did business with one time, like 5 or 6 years ago, but we've just been friends since then. He does like software engineer type stuff. And his friend's mom sold me her house just, I don't know, 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago or something like that. But when he thought of, hey, who buys houses, he thought of me. And It wasn't even him doing the transaction.
Well, that goes back to that age-old, hey, if you're going to be a real estate investor, start telling everybody as quickly as possible. Even if you don't see yourself as a real estate investor, if you're brand new and and it feels weird to say that you do that, because it's the worst feeling in the world is, say you're an agent and then your best friend buys or sells buys or sells a property.
How dare you?
With a different agent. You would feel shitty and they'd be like, oh, I forgot you were an agent.
So I'm a licensed real estate agent as well, and I see a lot of agents get bent out of shape because their friend used somebody else. The truth is their friend has 15 friends that are agents. They got to choose one.
Right. But my point being is, even if they chose somebody that was brand new, like not a friend,
yeah,
it's like that's the whole thing. If you're going to be in real estate investing, tell everybody. If you're at the Walmart or Target or something, tell the checkout person, yeah, I buy houses.
Sure.
I buy houses. That's why, like, Greg Shine walking around with the shirt, like literally every single shirt he wears is some sort of.
I think he only has one shirt.
That's true too.
Yeah,
but no, he bought a screen pressing thing, so he can make his own shirts. But every shirt he wears is some sort of variation of I buy houses.
I had a friend who passed away early last year. He was very, very wealthy, and he kind of took me under his wing. We'd go eat breakfast and stuff. And he said, if I could do it all over again, I'd show up in a tuxedo every place I went. I'm like, why? He's like, because then people always be like, why are you in a tuxedo? And he would respond, well, because I wanted to have a conversation with you. Let me tell you about my business. And that's what he said. He would always dress up some way where somebody always recognized him no matter where he went, and in a format where it was a conversation starter.
Right.
Dress up as Santa wherever you go. I don't know, whatever that is.
There's so many variations there because you'd be like, well, like I knew I was going to meet you, so I wanted to dress up.
Well, don't dress up to meet me. I'm a cowboy boot and jean type guy. Just joking.
You're important. But the thing is, though, I think the people that know you are very impressed by you. But what's interesting is, like, what does Ron Carlson need help on? Like, the fact that you needed to call Chris up and be like, hey, I have a struggle in my business. Like, what kind of struggle was that?
Well, so he does a lot of new build stuff, and so I'm looking to do a development. I'm trying to do a tiny home development, and I am trying to buy real estate in what's called an opportunity zone. I'm not sure if you're familiar with those at all. So I was looking for the cost to do a road and concrete. I found a piece of property, and I knew how much concrete I needed. And I was like, how do I price this out? And he was like, well, go call someone else because I'm not your guy to call. So I wasn't really looking for business advice as much as I was looking for a way to try to figure out how to quote something or a reference to quote something out. But I'm not scared to pick up the phone and call somebody that I think I know almost across the board. You call somebody and you're like, well, do you know anybody? And then they refer somebody to you, and then they refer somebody to you, and you just keep going on the list. And somebody won't respond back to you, and whatever, that's all right. But if you call enough people, somebody will tell you someone to call, and that's so much easier than trying to Google it and calling everybody yourself.
I think the biggest lesson I'm seeing here is even someone established as you is not afraid to pick up a phone and ask for help, because I think, especially as the manly men. Oh, I'll do it myself. I don't need directions. I'll do it, whatever. The fact that you're like, no, I'm going to call somebody up and get help. I think that's a big deal.
I learned something a long time ago in my business, and this is we changed our business mindset a couple years ago, and it's delegate, right? And I tell my employees, and this is very straightforward and it's very harsh. Look, if I need to do it for you, I don't need you. So can you do it or can't you do it? It's very straightforward, because if I have to do it, then why do I need to pay you?
Right.
Right. And I feel the same thing about going after business. Hey, look, I need to find somebody that can do this, and maybe I'm doing the groundwork to get there, but I'm just going to keep on calling and calling and calling. Like, when I started taking action, my business started to grow, because I just like, look, this needs to be done. Sometimes I don't even wait for my staff. I'll just start pounding the phone, pick it up. I can make 100 calls in a day sometimes, or I get 100 incoming phone calls. Not all of them are good, not all of them are bad, but like, I always judge how much production I do by how much my phone's ringing, because if I have a day where nobody ever reached out to me, or I didn't reach out to anybody, what am I really doing business-wise? Mm-hmm. So you
said you're doing about 10 to 12 deals a month. Now, probably. Are those mainly fix and flips, the wholesaling? Like, what's the breakdown of that?
So if we had our choice, we'd owner finance everything. We can control the transaction. We like the long-term residual income a little bit better. So we would just do everything. How it happens is we're marketing for real estate, and then people come by and say, hey, I have this piece of real estate, so if it's an owner finance, cool. If it's not, we're going to try to do something else with it. But we're probably 50-50, 50% flip and wholesale, 50% owner finance. I think that's probably great.
Speaking of owner finance, I know TJ had a quick question about something. Did you want to ask that? Who? Not TJ, Tommy, sorry.
It was something you said the other day about instead of rapping, pledging. I think
you've been stalking me?
I just read something that you wrote.
All right.
You pop up everywhere.
That's stalking.
Okay.
What's your question?
What is it? What is that? Like I'm familiar with the rap, but what's the difference between the pledge?
In the real estate world, a lot of people are teaching a wrap. So a wrap is you get a mortgage on a property, and you take, when you owner finance it, you wrap your financing to your buyer around your mortgage that's already in place. What we do is we create a note, and we use our note as collateral. So the best way to break it down is a lot of people think of real estate as you take a piece of real estate and you get money for the real estate. What we do is we create a note, and then we pledge our note. So we get money for our note. Therefore, if I default, you get my note, which is connected to the mortgage of the person that owns the real estate. Does that make sense? So a pledge is a note against a note.
Okay.
A mortgage is a note against a property, and a wrap is a mortgage wrapped around a mortgage.
Yeah. Does that make the recourse easier?
Well, when somebody loans money to us and they have the note as collateral, it's a very quick foreclosure process because if we were to default, which we never have and we never will, it's a very quick process because you're foreclosing an entity, not individual.
Okay.
That's actually the first grant teach me something that Grant and I did on Propelio was about the two LLC system and like the ability to foreclose on the LLC versus foreclosing on a person, because in Texas foreclosing on an entity is much quicker.
There's just no red tape. It's, hey, you go to court and you foreclose. Where you foreclose on an individual, you got all these disclosures, you have to do time, there's still a little bit of that with an LLC, but it's very, very, very fast.
Right.
Yeah. So one thing that I want to talk to you about is me questioning you now.
Let's do it.
So this has always intrigued me, but kind of bothered me. In any other industry in the world, people don't train their competition to be better. But real estate, because you can make so much money in real estate, we have a tendency to run classes and, grants teaching people how to owner finance and stuff like that. Why do you think in real estate it's okay to train your competition to compete with you, but not in any other industry?
I think there's several layers to that question, because on one level, I think a lot of people doing training hate actually doing the real estate, and they would rather go the guru model, because if I do a webinar for $20 online, yeah, $20 is nothing. But if 100,000 people watch it, suddenly that's a lot of money.
Sure.
Say I'm doing a course, saying you're doing a YouTube thing. So I think being the guru route, and I don't mean guru in a negative way. I just mean like going the education route for real estate, because there really is no college program for that. I mean, if there is, it's probably not worth it. But there's so much money in the education side, but also I think it's not that there's so much more money. There is still a ton of money, or if not more money, actually doing the real estate side of things. I think it's just it's an easier lifestyle. I think people, and I talked about this on here, is like pretty much most of the real estate investors I know that have done it more than 3 to 5 years hate walking properties. You said earlier, when's the last time you walked a house?
I probably average walking one a month, maybe.
But if you were like on a team of 1 to 3 people, like an acquisitions guy, like how many houses are you walking?
So I met with a acquisition guy yesterday, and he buys about 5 houses a month. But I imagine he's walking one a day, so he's probably doing 20, 30 houses. And close ratio is probably 25%, 20% on an acquisition.
And
guy.
I would say that's probably still good, but I think if you're in a good shop, I'm not saying you don't have a good shop. I'm just saying in a high, and also I'm going off of 2 to 3 years ago where it's different animal, 2 to 3 appointments a day. So if you're doing 2 to 3,
if you could generate that much business, sure.
Right?
I mean, that'd be ideal. One acquisition guy can handle about 3 houses a day, because the time you write paperwork, comp it, run out there, that's an hour. You hang out with somebody on their smelly, stinky dog.
So 3 a day, 15 a week, 15 or 60 a month, like 50 to 60 houses a month. 3 years of that, you're just like, oh, I hate cat piss.
Yeah, the challenge with being an acquisition agent is you're at their mercy, right? You have to go now. You're always on call. You're working nights. You're working weekends. Otherwise, companies like mine are going to come and beat you out because you were too slow because you wanted to go have a fun weekend.
Right.
My guys are going to slaughter you because they're going to get out their way before you.
Well, and this thing is like an ex-girlfriend of mine, like when I was answering bylines, I told her date 1, by the way, I really want to go out with you. I'm really enjoying this. If this phone rings, I am answering it. It has nothing to do with you. I'm just saying right now my career is first.
Sure.
And
I'm sure that went well for you.
Well, it actually did for 3 months, and then there's 3 months of like, ugh.
Yeah.
But anyway, so going back to the original question is, yes, I think that first element is I generally don't like being in houses anymore, and like there's a different way of making money. The second thing of why you would train your competition is, the joint venture, the ability to where if I show you how to do this, hopefully there's reciprocity in the fact that you will either A, bring me deals or bring me other opportunities to JV on and et cetera.
Sure.
So I think those are the main two off the top of my
So
head.
people essentially in real estate are training other people in real estate so they can capitalize on it.
Yeah.
Versus another industry, I don't even know, say that we make chocolate, right? I'm not going to teach you my chocolate recipe, and so you can be better. You're better at chocolate because
Right, because there's no shared opportunity in eating chocolate. It's just there's one piece of chocolate, two pieces of chocolate. You're going to eat one.
Yeah.
You're going to choose the one you like more.
It's always surprised me that it's almost expected that if I have knowledge, I'm supposed to share it with somebody.
In the real estate world.
Yeah, and I don't mind sharing, but what I do mind is like, so I don't know if you know this. A long time ago, I was homeless, right? And I read a book. I went to the library and I was renting real estate books and listening to audios, right? So there's this get rich quick thing in real estate where people are like, oh, this person can do it, I can do it too, but they don't realize, well, one, I read a book a week or an audio a week, and all the mistakes and all the things that still even happen. I mean, we make mistakes every single week. It's just what do you do with the mistakes, right? People want the fast track, and they want to be where they see people, but they don't want to go through all the heartache that it took to get there. They just see the end product, right?
Well, and then fast forward, you throw social media in the mix, and you got pictures and beams.
Oh yeah.
And like, look at this, and it's like there's a meme I saw the other day, which is perfect, because it was somebody on a private jet, and then you zoom out, and it was the inside of a private jet in a mall.
Oh.
Because it was like a scene or something that you took pictures on. But yeah, I think that's a high factor in the real estate community. But yeah, I think ultimately even if there is altruism, there's altruism with an agenda, you know, like, because even with Propelio, all that content that we were kicking out there, like the agenda is if you don't know how to do real estate, that's cool. But if I can teach you how to do real estate, hopefully you're going to use our product. Hopefully you're going to use our service. And there's going to be that connection. There's going to be that community, and there's going to be that reciprocity.
That's the whole, you give something to somebody and they're obligated to give back to you, even though there's no rule that says that. They just feel like they have to give back to you.
The thing that I would push back on there is if you have expectations of that, that's when you're going to get burned mentally, spiritually, all those things. So like with me, I actually did a video on YouTube like maybe a month or two ago where it's like the 99-1 rule. And I go into this mini rant of like, yes, live abundantly, do favors galore, but be choosy with who you do favors for. Like, I'll help anybody out, but I'm not going to help anybody out repeatedly.
Sure.
Like if I know like Ron Carlson, if I can go bend over backwards to help you out because eventually I might get a favor out of you. And somebody try to call me out and say, that's not abundant. You're trying. I'm like, listen, if I'm bending over backwards 99 times to at least one time get my back scratched, I see nothing wrong with that. But but doing that, you do lend yourself to be taken advantage of.
Sure.
But
yeah, I always give to give, never give to receive. So if I ever get paid back, cool. If I don't, even if I gave somebody, borrowed them money, right? I don't expect them to pay me back. I expect,
right.
Hey, they might not pay me back. They might take my tool and break it if I borrow it to them. I understand that.
And again, I'm not trying to say, oh, Ryan's a dickhead. No, obviously, if most people I've helped out if somebody calls me up, hey, I need a favor, I usually say, yeah. I'm like, yeah, let's do this. I'll help you out. But again, I don't have expectations of having a reciprocation. It's reciprocation. Yes. Whatever that word is. I don't have expectations.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's the only way, especially in real estate, in the entrepreneur world, that's the only, if you have expectations that somebody's going to hook you up.
I see a lot of people trying to date a girl to get closer to their dad or go to certain events. Oh, you didn't know about that?
What?
How dare you?
Yeah, take notes.
Yeah, or go to certain meetings to get close to somebody. I see people's motives on befriending people wrong, in my opinion, I guess.
Right.
So, but I see that a ton in real estate, and people are just sucking on each other, trying to suck them dry. Or I've actually seen it the other way, where like, let's say I didn't like you, and now I misfeed you information, so you go and get yourself in trouble. Now you're just out of the picture completely, right?
Have you done that?
No, I don't do that. I have seen other people do that.
I have never even thought of that.
But you will now.
Yes.
You're like, I don't like this person. How can I get them away? I'm going to get them to fail.
God. Tommy's like, I approve.
Yeah, Tommy's over there thinking, I'll do that. I've done that before.
Well, that's what kind of started trolling was just misinformation, like flat earth and stuff like that. You just throw out misinformation and people get so frothed up to correct you. It's just like setting out bait. So it's kind of the same thing, but instead of trying to get people riled up, you give them disinformation so that they, take themselves out.
You were telling me about one a while back where literally there's this whole movement built upon the foundations of it was a trolling effort. Do you remember that conversation?
Yeah, there's a oh man, I can't remember if it was the like hand signals or stuff like that gets picked up by mainstream media, or the like an emoji, right? Like there's nothing racist or anything about the emoji, but because of a troll, like it's usually the ACLU picks it up and says this is bad, this is anti-Semitic, this is racist, and it the OK hand signals one that like goes to it. That came from like 4chan. Like it is a troll. Like it was fake from the beginning.
Because they said it was like, oh, that's white power.
Yeah,
it's the W
the
and
W and the P.
P.
Yeah,
and like what you're saying is it was somebody just poking fun at this woke culture thing.
Yep.
And then it got picked up as a real thing, and now suddenly it's a real thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I wish I was smart enough to create something that people would believe, and then run with it for the rest of their life. I'm not that sophisticated. No, I wish I was though. I mean, it would be cool to be like, hey, if everybody wears purple today, you will win the lottery. So then every time the lottery came, people wore purple or whatever.
Wouldn't it be funny if all of a sudden everybody's wearing purple?
Right?
On the lottery day.
Yeah.
So I don't know how we segue back to some like real estate stuff, but what would be some information? What's the misinformation that you've seen? Just so we could all watch out and not do that.
As far as like the real estate side goes.
Sure.
So we're in a deal right now where we bought a house from a wholesaler and it had a addition on the back, and the addition's on the tax rolls, but there was never a permit for it. And the city literally told us today, hey, either take off the addition completely or do it correctly. So I'm going to lose 220 square feet of a property that no matter how I do it, it costs me the same amount to tear it off as it does to redo it, which is it's only about $20,000 in value on the addition, but it's about a $15,000 fix no matter how I do it. Mm-hmm. So sometimes you're misled by what looks right, but it doesn't actually look right.
So in a situation like that, does appreciation ever come into play? Like, okay, yes, if it's going to cost me 20, but all I'm doing is gaining 15, there's a $5,000 loss there, but over time that could be made up.
Yeah, it depends on what your exit strategy is. That's going to be an owner finance or a flip, so it's a short-term strategy for us, and I don't have long-term capital available for that particular house, nor do I want to spend $20,000 extra and then hold a mortgage where I'm cash flowing so little that it would take so long to do the 20%. So this is a true story. I'm unfortunate to say it, but we break even. We don't like to lose money. Number one rule to investing is don't lose money, right? But we break even 1 out of every 20 houses. So I know going into it, 1 out of every 20 houses I'm going to work really hard on, and it's going to be a wash. I've lost money. I've lost a lot of money. We lost $250,000 on one deal once. Don't do that. It's not fun. Just in case you were thinking about doing that, I'm just advising you don't do that.
I need a thank you, Captain Obvious drop. Yeah.
So maybe like, sometimes we lose $5,000 or $10,000, but we do a lot of deals that we wash. We come out, we make $600 on it. We worked on it for 4 months. This deal will be one of those deals where at the end of it, I'll probably profit a couple $1,000s. But I look at it as, hey, let's say I buy 100 deals, what is that, 5 a year will be a wash. Will I make it up all my money on the other 95?
Well, it's interesting because like Chris Fast, like we've had this conversation before where he will intentionally buy houses at times, not all the time, obviously, where he knows it's literally a break-even play just to keep his crews running.
Yeah, we'd had to do that in the past where we didn't have enough real estate because it costs so much to go and train your team the way you need your train to be, or you need your team to be trained, that it's cheaper to buy a house and wash and keep those guys busy Otherwise, if you don't pay them or you don't have work for them, they go find someone else, and now you're spending 3 to 6 months trying to train that back up. It's just easier for me to take a hit this month or break even this month than to spend all the time to go and find the crews again.
So if you know, like your break even ratio is like 1 in 20, and that's already factored in, does it have an emotional sting still, or are you just like, well,
not so much to me. I have a guy in my office. He's our general manager, and he's taken over a lot of our roles. That's one of the reasons why I don't have to walk houses. He's approving deals and stuff like that, so he hasn't felt it so much. But to me, it just kind of rolls off. We have money set aside for the crap moments, right? And we actually budget on every single house. Even though we're fairly decent at rehabbing houses, we always budget 10%, knowing that we're going to get into something that's going to cost us money. We just don't know what it is, but we know something's going to cost us more money than what we anticipated.
So, because you've been in this business, Matt, and you're pretty well networked, that 1 in 20 ratio, do you think that's a high ratio? Do you think that's a good ratio?
I think more people lose more money faster.
Frequently.
Yeah, especially because, so I'm just in a position where I can do several hundred deals a year, right? Most people are in a position where they can do 10 deals a year. And they're very lax in their experience. You know, if you have somebody that's been in the game 3 years, 10 deals a year, they're only at 30 houses. I'm going to do that in 3 months. You see what I'm saying? So their learning curve isn't as fast as mine. And so they're probably actually going to lose on 3 out of 10.
Well, that's one thing, like in the HomeVestor days, and I've said this all the time, and I'm blatantly credit HomeVestors, especially on the acquisition side, you need to be in 100 houses as quickly as possible. Not necessarily, I mean, obviously if you could buy 100, that'd be amazing, but just to walk them, to understand how to go through the acquisition process. So if you take that formula multiplied by actually buying the houses, the lessons you'll learn through rehabbing or the acquisitions or the title process of 100 houses, I mean, obviously that's an obvious statement, but I mean, the lessons you've learned doing that, I can't imagine. Like, what are the things? Obviously, it's hard to say, oh, what do you know now that you wish you'd known then? Mm-hmm. But what is something that, damn, if I would have just known this day one, my career would have looked a lot different?
I wish I would have known how to work with cities a little bit more, and they're getting stricter and stricter. So a lot of cities have implemented this policy where they won't turn my power on unless we get an electric inspection. Okay, so if you rehab a house and you didn't pull permits, which we never do.
You mean hypothetically?
Hypothetically, we would always. Hypothetically, you should always pull permits on a property, but now you're at their mercy because they want to inspect the property.
Right.
And this one that we're rehabbing, we did not pull permits on it. I'll just say it. And we went to go turn the power on, and there's a problem with the addition. There's a problem with a gas line. So they're really actually going to make us redo the gas line and redo the addition just to get power on the house. And we told the inspector, well, we don't want to do it. You know, we're just going to sell it without it. He's like, I don't care. The next person that buys it, he's going to have to do it. So there's this thing with the cities. They're getting really smart. There's been times where they went, let's turn water on, but you need water to mix mud or wash your tools. So you do turn the water on, and then the city comes and starts sniffing around, which is okay. I want to do everything right, but a lot of people don't know that the HOAs and the cities are a lot more powerful than they.
Well, I don't know if you want to get into that last stink that you
whatever
had.
you want, man.
Well, speaking of cities, like you were working on a house, there was a neighbor's house. The neighbor wanted to buy it, and they just happened to either have a friend or work at the city. All of a sudden, you had all these issues with your house.
Oh yeah, I still own that house. I've owned it since January last year. That one, the city, we believe somebody in the city was trying to sabotage us because he wanted to purchase that particular property. He owns several houses on the block, including the one right next to me, and he works directly for the city. And it just happened that every time we called an inspection, that our copper got stolen out of it. Like literally, like we called for it on Friday, it was going to come on Monday, Sunday night, and it happened 3 times in a row for us. And then we put what we ended up doing. Well, our problem was we couldn't get power there because he kept stealing the power that we were trying to hook up our security system with. And we eventually got a temporary pole, put an alarm in there, and then put game cams in there. We bought some camouflage game cams, bolted them to the wall. The last time he broke in, the cameras went off. He grabbed one, threw it on the ground. We got only the backside of his head because of how they were set up, but he hadn't been back since. But yeah, that's a real thing. The city can on that one. The city was messing with us in ways like this. Like we redid the power on the property, and he came in. And he said, "Hey, I want you to redo the electricity." Okay, cool. We were going to do it anyways. But then after we ran all the power, he came back and said the 2x4s, because he made us take off all the sheetrock, make sure it was insulated right. Well, your 2x4s are 20 to 24 inches apart, but we didn't frame the house out. So then he was like, I want them 16 inches on center. Doesn't sound like a big deal, but I already ran my power. So I had to take out my power to put a board in where my power already was. And so we find that if you don't pull permits, the cities will get more and more difficult with you and make you do redundant stuff. And really, they're just, I don't know, there should be a cleaner process in the inspection world when you're doing a house, but they do stuff just to dink with you. They'll say, hey, I want you to open up these walls. I want to see if the insulation's right. Well, now, this happened to me in White Settlement. I opened up the walls so they could inspect the insulation. Walls I didn't touch, walls I didn't insulate. And he's like, oh, now your walls are open. You have to re-insulate, and you have to put new windows in because you opened up your walls. You have to bring it up to code. Well, they don't tell you that before you open up your walls. And so you're kind of at their mercy. And I lost $10,000 on that deal in White Settlement because they made me do all that extra work that I didn't plan on doing, but I had to do it because you have to get through the city in order to.
Now, is that why you are doing more owner finance stuff? And when you do owner finance stuff, are you working on them at all, or is it just selling as is?
We do very few as is sales because we want the foundation to be fixed, we want the roof to be fixed, and we want there to be AC and no major problems. So once I am fixing the top stuff anyways, I'm almost have to rehab the whole entire house because you're opening up walls, you want to fix the broken windows. I don't want to take them back, so I feel like the nicer my house is, the less chance I have of somebody not being able to afford the repairs and not being able to take them back. I'm not trying to take them back. But yeah, we do fix them, and we do fix them nice. It doesn't, the city's still going to get involved either way. So when we're pulling permits, they're still going to go in and say, hey, this, and this. We've had a couple burnouts. The city's atrocious to work with on a burnout. They want you to reframe the whole thing. They want you to tear down the whole house. And so this is finesse where they're in charge, but you got to give them a little pushback. But if you give them too much pushback, they give you so much a hard time. It's like this deal.
So do you think when you're working with the cities that they're giving you that much grief because they genuinely are trying to, look out for the public defender type thing and look out for the public's interest? Or is it, I work for the city government and I have no power, and if I can get to fuck with you, that gives me a rise in the day?
I think that that it's both. I mean, they're saying, oh, hey, we don't want people to die in this house once you sell it to them. But we've literally had inspectors tell us, the inspectors in Saginaw told us, hey, look, if you don't do what I say, I'm going to make it so miserable you'll be in this house for 2 years. I'll just never pass you on inspection. I mean, they've said stuff like that to us.
Are they looking for bribes?
I don't know, but I will tell you, I know somebody that did a remodel on their house, and he figured out that the inspector liked flautas. Is that what they're called? Flautas? I don't know. Taquitos, that type of thing. Flautas?
Flautas.
Yeah. They found out that the inspector liked them. They just happened to be making them one day when the inspector was coming over, and the inspector would just be like, "Oh, these are great." So then every time he did the inspection, they started cooking him food. And I kid you not, the last inspection, which he's supposed to do a final walkthrough, he came in the kitchen, ate his tacos or whatever they were, and then left and signed off on the green tag. And he did the final inspection.
I think there's something there. Out of every show that I've done on here or on Propelio or whatever, I think that's the biggest golden nugget of all time. If you could find out the likes of your inspector, obviously we're not condoning bribery.
Yeah.
But if they like flautas, have a chef there.
I agree. So on that same house, it was in an HOA, and the HOA was given really big pushback on making an addition because it would have been the biggest house in the whole entire subdivision that messes up the comps. So then the same guy went to the neighbors, bought them tacos, and said, hey, look, I want you to sign this thing saying that you're okay with me doing this in the backyard. By the way, I'm going to redo the fence. Are you okay with me redoing the fence? When I do the addition, here's some tacos. And so his neighbors signed off on this piece of paper saying that they're okay. And then by the time the HOA got wind of the addition, he came to the neighbors. The president of the HOA came to the neighbors and was like, hey, look, this guy next door is trying to build an addition. We want you to sign off that you're not going to let him do that. And they're like, no, we like our neighbor. I'm not going to sign that. And they'd already signed the other piece of paper. So I'm not saying you want to bribe people, but it's nice to be nice to people.
I will say when I lived overseas and I worked in Doha, I worked in chemical construction materials. I was a sales for that, and the company I was working for, the main hub was in Dubai, and I was like at Doha, and we had a lot of trouble getting our product from Dubai into Doha until we found the right guy to hypothetically give him a Rolex watch.
Sure.
And all of a sudden our product was able to move and sue the country.
A long time ago, before I was in real estate, I did manufacturing. I was the first employee out of a family company, and they wanted to develop a property or a product, but they didn't want to pay all these engineering fees and all this. They did one of the most creative things I've ever seen a company do. They had O-ring guys and bearing guys and steel guys and engineers that they'd all been using, but what they did is they brought them all into one room. They wined and dined them. They took them to play golf. They let them shoot guns. They took them fishing because they all own lake homes and stuff. I'm from the north. And that whole thing cost us about $5,000, steaks and beer and hamburgers every single day. And in a 4-day period of time, they did what it would take in 6 to 9 months for a $5,000 entertainment fee that they got to write off. And they built this product that ended up becoming a multi-million-dollar product. But sometimes you don't necessarily have to hire all these people to do $150 an hour. Just bring them in for wine and dine and hang out with you.
I wonder the legalities of, like, say you're like, hey, there's 3 inspectors in whatever city. It's like, hey, we're going on a hunting trip. We do a lot of business together. I really just want to say thank you.
Yeah,
like, I
so
wonder
I've
if
actually
there's
seen some case law. We probably don't want to do that.
Got it.
But I mean,
I was just curious.
Yeah. I mean, tacos is one thing, and $5,000 hunting extravaganza to go shoot a tiger is something else.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. I mean, because you're not at that point. You're not schmoozing for a sales gig. You're schmoozing for a hey, look the other way gig, which is obviously not as.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with inspectors, the moment you sass off to them, they're going to give you pushback, and I feel like they were bullied as a kid, so this is their time to go and bully back society, and most of them are getting lied to all day long. Let's just say that they're meeting with investors every single day, and every investor's like, "Oh, I didn't know. I'm sorry, I didn't pull permits." I mean, think about what that's going to do to. Hey, I don't really care. I'm just going to get this done.
I mean, you can say the same thing about police. The reason they're so standoffish or aggressive or aggro, whatever you want to call it, is every traffic stop they're at, there's the potential to get shot.
Yeah. And what's the first question they ask you? Hey, do you know why I pulled you over? And you're thinking in your head, yeah, I know why you pulled me over because I was doing 95 miles in a 60. But what do you say? You say, no, officer, why'd you pull me over? Right?
Yeah.
They get that every single day.
Well, yeah. And a lot of people give police a lot of grief, but it's like, if you actually look at it and go, okay, how did you respond?
Sure.
Were you aggressive? Were you an asshole? Were you this and that? Not, we don't need to go on this tangent of police, whatever, but it's like, if you just like turn off your car and just, I don't know, it's like chill. Yeah, they might still be dicks. They might still be assholes. Like I don't think I've ever had a pleasant run-in with the police, but at the same time, I don't go out of my way to be aggressive about it.
Yeah.
So same thing with code enforcement.
Have you ever seen that? Yeah, same thing with code enforcement. I mean, just be chill with them and do what they say, and hopefully their ego doesn't flare up. We've actually, smoothed over code enforcement sometimes where we were just like, help me out of this. Right. I don't know what to do. You tell me what to do. I'll do whatever you tell me to do, and then we'll go through this together. And that seems to work better than, I don't know. I don't even know how this happened,
Right.
Have you ever seen Liar Liar?
Is it the one with Ace and Fitzgerald?
Yeah, Jim Carrey. Yeah. I think there's a spot where he gets pulled over, and the guy's like, do you know why I pulled you over? And he can't lie, so he's like, makes up all this stuff. Illegal turn on red. I've always wanted to memorize that and then say it if I got pulled over, but I hadn't taken the time to memorize that. I'm sure you'd be
better off if you just start quoting like the Super Trooper lines.
Which ones?
Like meow or, like.
I don't know if you should be meowing when the
I'm just saying the police would probably resonate more with them than say like liar, liar.
Sure.
Like they wouldn't get that, but I think every police ever would get like any kind of line from Super Troopers.
I have a couple friends that are police officers, and their number one rule is if you can make me laugh when I pull you over, I won't give you a ticket.
That's another golden ticket right there.
Good luck. Cause
tacos and laughter.
Oh yeah,
will
tacos and laughter. Yeah. That's all you need, man.
That's the title of this video: tacos and laughter.
There you go. There you go. And I mean, people come and title companies try to smooth us. What do? They bring tacos. They send us cookies.
Yeah.
You know, and we'll eat them and we'll forget about them a lot of times. But every once in a while, they get a deal from us. You know.
So if schmoozing doesn't work on you, what does work on you? Just performance?
I just don't like to be sold. So I get calls all the time, people trying to sell me stuff. You know, you get that call about your car insurance is expired or your warranty or whatever it is. I just hang up on those people. But like I typically, if I'm shopping for something I'm going to buy, I'm a very tough sale. If you're just going to show up and try to sell me something, it's probably not. I'm just that guy
So
where
the
I'm
way-
like, I buy if I need something, not if you're trying to sell me something.
So that deal I sent you, I probably did right by just forwarding it and not saying anything.
Probably so, yeah. And I'll look at it, and if I go after it, I go after it. Yeah. I mean, that's how like working with wholesalers. We will look at about 100 emails a day right now, maybe 125. And out of that 125, we comp 30 or 40, and we look at 5 or 6, right?
Right.
People are like, oh, you didn't tell me if you liked my deal or not. You know, I'm mad at you. I'm not going to send you another deal. I'm like, look, I don't have time to even tell you that your deal was trash. I'm just going to move on to the next deal. Just how about this? If you want me to respond to your email, send me a really good deal, and we'll respond to your email. Otherwise, assume that your deal was not for me.
I think the better response is. I think the better response is, who are you?
Yeah, right. You what? You didn't buy me
you're in real estate? How long have you been doing this?
You didn't buy me tacos. You haven't made me laugh. So.
Well, that's the thing is like, you know, the buyers list, up to about a year and a half ago, 2 years, I was the mindset that emails don't work just because the spam rate, the whatever, you send 1,000, there's 12 people open it, whatever. But I was at a digital marketing summit series, not this December, but a year ago, December 2018. And one of the things was email marketing is still the king of marketing. And the point I'm trying to get to is that's fine and the deals will go out. But if it's just an obvious email blast deal, you may get to it eventually to
Sure.
due diligence on it. But if it's like that short list thing we're talking about, if it's a text, if it's a call, if it's a Facebook message, if it's an email directly to you and it's obvious that it's sent to you, I would assume you're going to move that to the front of the line as far as due diligence goes.
Oh, most certainly. There's a couple wholesalers that still call me that I haven't passed those relationships off to my staff yet because I like the people mainly. And
Make you laugh.
every time you pass off, they buy me tacos, right? Every time you pass it off, you pass the baton, you lose momentum. And so them talking to me directly, I can get that done so much faster than my guy putting them on the back burner because they don't know who they are. But there's a particular guy I probably buy 5 houses a year from. When he calls me, I answer his phone call or I'll call him right back. And my phone call typically goes like this. I took your phone call because every time I talk to you, we both make money. How much money are we going to make today? That's how I answer the phone. And he's like, well, I don't know how much you're going to make, but I'm going to make $25,000 by selling you this deal. I'm like, well, send it to me. Let's do it.
Right.
And then I might pass it to my team and then get back to him if I want it. But even like yesterday, somebody that I have a relationship sent me a deal. I told my guy that's running my system, hey, is this a deal or not? He's like, no, it's not a deal. So then I just responded back, hey, this one's not for me. That's what I learned too. Is like I have to politely say, hey, this one's not for you. I don't have time to go into, hey, your numbers are terrible and why wouldn't you? Nobody will ever buy this deal. You're at 110 cents on the dollar. I don't know what you're thinking. There's no reason to do that. Just hey, I'm moving on to the next one.
I think the big lesson there is know who you're talking to, and what I mean by that is if this guy who's calling you, and you know who he is, he knows who you are, and you have that established relationship, and you're talking about passing the baton, and he may not, and your employee may not know who they're talking to, could mess up that relationship. Yeah. I don't think that's harped on enough of, know who you're talking to. Like, and this is going to sound douchey as hell, but whatever. I was at an event, I don't know, a year ago, not too long ago, but not frequent enough that I even remember the whole thing about it. But this guy was talking to me and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, he was like, well, I'd like to, okay, cool. Well, here, what's your number? I'll text you my information. He's like, well, my office line. I was like, never mind.
Right.
I was like, dude, and it wasn't like, don't you know who I am? It's just like, I don't want your office line. I don't want to talk to you. I'm just going to text you. But if we're not even at a texting status, why are we talking?
Yeah.
You came to me, so.
Well, and I find this too, where you have wholesalers and they're like, how do I build my buyers list? How do I build my buyers list? And you're like, here's my email address. I strategically made an email address so people would remember it, and people are like, I don't know who you are, but I see your email address all the time, which is good for me. What is it? I buy from wholesalers at gmail.com, right? It tells exactly what it is. It says, hey, I buy from wholesalers. I'm experienced. Sell me your junk, and I'm going to go through it. And people won't write it down. They never add me to their buyers list. And I see them 3 months later, and they're like, oh, are you on my buyers list? I'm like, no, because you didn't put me on there. Why did you do all this networking and grab my email and look for buyers? And then 3 months later, you're saying you don't have buyers, but I'm not even on your list in the first place, and you have my information. I don't understand that.
Do you think when people are building buyers list, do you think it's just a bunch of other people trying to build buyers lists and 90% of that buyers list is junk?
No. So like I have like 22,000 people on my buyers list, and my bounce back ratio is almost none because we've eliminated all the bounce back. I'm not saying that they're all buyers. Some of those are shoppers. Some of those just here's what I've learned a long time ago. If you have someone's information and they've given it to you, then why wouldn't you be sending them deals if they've asked you to get deals? And if they don't want your deals, they can unsubscribe or they can spam you or whatever it is. But what I've learned in the past with wholesaling is somebody would call me and say, hey, I want a house in Grand Prairie, Arlington. Okay, cool. And then I wouldn't send them anything because I didn't have a house in Grand Prairie, Arlington. And 6 months later, they'd be like, oh, I bought a house in Fort Worth. I'm like, why'd you do that? You told me you only do, well, yeah, but there was a deal over here. So I learned, like, I just send everybody everything. If you don't like what I send you, delete it. Don't even open it. I don't even care. But I have almost no bounce back ratio now because we've cleaned it up our list a lot. And people that you didn't hear from for 2 or 3 years, they come back and be like, oh, I just found some money. I want to finally buy my first deal or whatever.
Which mail client do you use?
Come again?
Mail client, like MailChimp, Constant Contact?
Zoho.
Zoho.
Yeah, we use Zoho because we use Podio, which I don't ever recommend Podio for anybody. It is terrible. The maintenance on it is atrocious.
Well, when it shuts down, you're shut down.
If it shuts down, yeah.
Well, I've seen it. I use Podio for the event stuff I'm working on, and
yeah,
I've seen it in the past 2 months shut down 3 separate times.
Sure, but it's going to come back to life if it actually went bankrupt or something like that.
Oh,
yeah,
I'm not talking about shut down. I'm talking
yeah.
about like site maintenance.
Yeah, and it's okay if you're like a one-off, but if you're trying to run a team, the amount of build out for every single process, it's just there's got to be a better way. We've been working on Podio for over a year. I've literally been working on it for 40 hours a week since last January. So we're almost done. We're not even done building it out yet.
And this is just interesting to me, and if it's not relevant, I'm sorry, but so you're on Zoho. Are you using like Zapier to connect the two of Zoho and Podio, or is there a natural connection?
No, Zapier and Globiful.
Okay, and then as far as, are you managing the contacts within Zoho, or are you managing them within Podio?
Podio.
So I'm assuming you have an app in Podio that has like name, email, mailing address, and then everything that they're looking for, or is just...
No, so there again, I don't care what you're looking for. I'm just going to mass blast everything.
Okay.
It's not worth my time to try to figure out what you want. Just delete my email. I don't really care.
Got it. So, but originally you were trying to figure out what you want, but now it's just everything.
Yeah, and when I first started, I was just using Gmail when I first started, and then Gmail has like a cap at like 200 people or something, so that created a problem. And then the other thing without using a system is you can accidentally send all of your buyers list out if you're using something that's not a little bit more hidden.
Right.
So one time I sent out an email and I didn't be CC, I CC'd. And so this guy called me and was like, hey, somebody from your company sent me their whole entire buyers list. Do you care if I market to it? I was like, well, that's a dumb move. Don't go steal someone's list and market to it, mainly because I didn't want competition, right? And I had another email address, and then so he ended up sending out an email, and I got the email from the list that I sent out because my email was on that. I had a different email address on there. Mm-hmm. And so then I was like, oh, this guy's, he'll just straight up steal all your contacts from you and not even tell you about it and act like it was no big deal, I lost a little respect for him. But that's the name of the game. People stealing, whatever.
We did an event in Houston 2 years ago, and I take full ownership of this because I did not prep the front desk people that were doing the check-ins. And at an event what do you think, if you're running an event like the events that I've done or you've been to, what do you think is the most important thing at the event?
What do I think the most important thing is?
Yeah,
that's a hard one.
What's the whole point of the event?
You're there to network and get contact information. So I would think that if you had email addresses and phone numbers and names, that would go a long way.
So at this event, it was like again April 2018 in Houston. So I had the check-in people working the front desk, but then there's nobody else to check in, so they just go have a drink, have a sandwich, hang out, and then when it's time to leave, luckily obviously you have a ton of people doing online registers, but you always have handwritten people.
Sure.
There was like 100 handwritten addresses that just vanished.
Wow.
I was like, oh, and I say it's my bad because I didn't prep the people that were helping out.
Sure.
That, by the way, this is the whole reason we're doing this event, and it will grow legs and walk away if you don't guard it.
Sure.
And I know that's insane and ridiculous, but as much as we started this whole conversation about collaboration and abundance and help each other out, there's some savage moments too.
It's one thing if I give it to you. It's another thing if you steal it from me. We have a line that we always, we don't say it so much, but whenever we're backed into a corner, it comes out. And the line that we typically use is like, I'll give you the shirt off my back. I'm not going to let you take it from me. Like, if you want to take the shirt off my back, then we're going to throw down. But if I just want to give it to you, then that's a whole different thing. So if someone's actually stealing your contacts and stealing your proprietary information or stealing what you just spent $10,000 to grab 100 email addresses, I mean, yeah, you should be ticked off.
I was more annoyed at myself for not remembering that would happen.
Sure.
Like, and I think you always have moments like that. Like, oh, that was my fault. Like, we recently did that event with Daniel, where we did that online intensive, and I limited it to like 100 people. I limited it to 100 people that could sign up because it was at the Quest building, and they could only fit about 75 people in there. So because I knew there's only 75, I limited it to 100 people. And I forgot that, and it's not that I forgot. I figured if I told people,
forgot.
Yeah, I forgot.
Okay.
I told people over and over and over, hey, if you're not planning on coming, that's cool. Please let me know so we can open this up. Let us know we can open it up. Let me know. And I was trying to make it known that there's limited seating because it's a free event. Limited seating. If you're not going to come, don't sign up because we have limited tickets. And what I forgot is people don't care. They don't show up.
That's correct.
And if you have a free event, if 1,000 people sign up, you're lucky to get 300 to 400 show up. So it's not quite 50%, but
you think it's a 50% drop off ratio from people who say they're going?
Think about 50 to 60% drop off.
Yeah, I remember when I got married, the caterer was like, we had 300 people at our wedding. The caterer was like, yeah, you only need food for 250 people. I'm like, no, we invited 300 people. You're like, yeah, but only 250 are going to show up. And, my wife was offended. What? Everyone's not going to show up to my wedding, but I'm over all that. Like, I get it. Like, there's a ratios, and you shoot out an email, and a certain amount of people are going to respond certain ways. One thing that blows my mind is I tell people, if you want me to buy your house, send an email. And I literally have people tell me, we only text message our deals. Well, I'm probably not going to buy something because I get all this junk text all the time. I don't have time to click on your link to see if it's a deal on my phone that's this big, send it to my computer so I can analyze it when I have all my systems up and running.
Get an iPhone and it just syncs up.
Yeah, sure, but I think that you should communicate with people the way that they want to communicate, not how it's easy and convenient for you. If you want me to come knock on your door because that's how we're going to get a deal done, I'm going to come knock on your door, right? But don't say, like, let's use this interview, right? I was like, hey, Ryan, why don't you grab all your stuff and come to my office and we'll do an interview at my office. You'd be like, no, that ain't going to work for me, and go fly a kite, right?
Right.
But we worked it out where this is how we communicate, right?
Because we're going to play Risk later.
Oh, yeah, and you'll lose again.
So did you.
No. Emphasize again.
So did you.
Well, I didn't lose first. I mean, you kind of. Actually, I think you were last place.
I was out first.
Like, you were 100% last. Where I was fighting there for a little bit.
Yeah, I forgot who won because there was no winner because Jason Della brought his own game and he brought a Fisher Price version of Risk.
Yeah, it was.
What place were you, Tommy?
I was the second one out.
So y'all are both losers. I get it.
Yeah, that was bad.
Oh, Lord.
Which is why I like Risk, because there's a little trash talking going on, and I mean, it's world domination, so you gotta,
Yeah.
you know, maybe we should bring tacos and more laughter. We probably would have done better.
Yeah. Well, that version is the real version, not that crappy version that he had.
We'll see.
Yeah.
You think you'll do better on that version versus the other version? Is what you're saying?
Probably not.
All right.
I'll probably still lose my ass, but it's fun.
Yeah, that's the
You
whole
know,
point.
it's all about that
some
community
camaraderie
aspect
and hanging out and
Exactly. And
chilling.
trash talking.
Yeah. And we digress.
It is what it is. As far as like your future, like where do you, because I know you do the houses, and I know we touched on that you would rather just buy 50 at a time. Like, do you want to stay in houses, or would you rather do the commercial stuff, the multifamily stuff, and just much bigger deals, or is volume still the name of the game?
Well, volume is always going to be the name of the game for me because that's the only way I can keep momentum going. If I don't have deal flow or deals coming in, then I'm going to lose my team. They won't have stuff to do. And it gets into the same thing with the contractors. If you don't have stuff for your team to do, then you have to retrain. They quit. They're bored. They're not, they want to be challenged, right? But I would like to do bigger deals. I want to do commercial deals, but not necessarily apartments. I think it's oversaturated. I want to do more like warehouses or something along those
Well, like
lines.
your office, I mean, I think anybody that's ever seen your office is in love with your office.
It's pretty sick.
It's sexy. It's great.
Yeah.
Have you thought about doing what we were talking about last time, where it's just like open it up to where almost like a co-op where people can pop in?
Yeah, we've talked about opening it up, and we talked about having events and stuff there. The truth is that's not my passion, so I'm not. I mean, it's a great building to have it, but I'd almost need somebody like you to throw a party there because I'm really good at showing up at the party, but I'm terrible at planning it.
So what's your passion? The houses?
I'm not in real estate as much as like entrepreneurship. I like business. I like to train people. I like to build people up into, hey, this is how you run a business. I was talking to a wholesaler yesterday that I went out to lunch with, and he's just like, man, I just am glad to buy 5 houses a month, and I want to buy one rental that makes me $500 a month. And I'm like, I just want 1,000 employees that each make me $2,000 a month. Like, our mindset's just completely different, right? Like, you can have your one house and your 500, but I'm just like, how do I scale it? Right now we're trying to go into different markets, and some of our financing that we have in play, they're like, we don't want to go to that market. Well, if I had the financing in that market, there's nothing stopping me from just taking what I've already built and moving into that market. But I like entrepreneurship. That's kind of going back to your question, because every time that we have come into a roadblock, hey, you can't owner finance. Hey, you have to be a lender to owner finance. Hey, you have to do this to get to the next level. We just keep hitting that wall until we break it, right? It took me 7 months to get my loan officer license. And then when I got my loan officer license, because our underwriters were like, you need to become a loan officer. You're doing too many deals. So we had to do something in the meantime because I was doing too many deals and I had to be a loan officer. Well, then I became a loan officer, and I thought my underwriter would sponsor me and let me put my license underneath them. And they're like, no, you need to go find another broker. Well, I'm like, well, no one's going to sponsor me. I'm a loan officer who's never done a deal, and I'm owner financing. Nobody likes that. So then I became a licensed lender, right? So that's what I like about entrepreneurship or owning a business is I like the challenges and I like the drama. I like, hey, there's a squatter in your house, smoking a crack pipe. What are you going to do about it? That's not necessarily other people in the company's stuff, but I'm like, I'm going to show up at the house,
So would you show up at the house?
So we've done a couple of things with squatters, but the thing that we're going to do next, we keep talking like we're going to do it. We'll see if we actually do. So there's a law with squatting, and I found this out because the squatter told me. I showed up with the police, get out of my house, and they're like, oh, we have a lease. And the police are like, oh, now it's a civil matter. You have to evict them. Well, if they have a lease, somebody else can have a lease, right? So I know some gangsters, right? They feed them tacos, and we laugh a lot together. And I'm going to hire 2 gangsters with 2 German shepherds to go and live with the squatters. That's my next move.
And give them a lease.
I'm going to give them, well, I mean, they might not even have a lease, but they just have to tell the cops that they have a lease, and then it's a civil matter, and they can't evict. They have to be evicted. So the squatters are squatting, but if I go squat with the squatters, I think that this will be a really good reality show. We haven't done it yet, but we did find the dogs, and we did find the gangsters. And they'll probably work for tacos and beer.
And you can get them in the house because it's not like you can break and enter your own house.
Kick down my own door, and then the cops will show up and say, "Hey, these guys broke down my door, and they're like, no, we live here.
We're just partying.
I don't know how morally that is, or, I'm setting them up to lie on a house that I own. I don't know how that actually works, but I'm tired of people stealing my money and smoking crack in my house with no running water. And I'm just tired of it. So we have done a couple of things lately that I'm not necessarily proud of, but we've got squatters out quicker than we ever have before. How about that?
Can you go into that?
Here's a deal that happened a little while, like 3 weeks ago. I bought this guy's house, did a 2-week lease back with him. 15 days later, shows up. He doesn't move out. He moves out 45 days after we do the 2-week lease back, because I had to evict him and we had to go through all that stuff. He kept saying he's gonna get out, and we're trying to be nice. So then you have to hire a constable, and then how that works is you show up at someone's house, you take all their junk, and you throw it on the curbside, and they have 24 hours to remove it. Well, I didn't know this, but there was a truck in the yard, which I knew there was a truck in the yard, but the guy, because we changed the locks out, put plywood on all the windows, and we weren't ready to work on it yet. It was at the end of the year, it was around Christmas time, so we weren't ready. Well, the guy moved into the truck that was in the driveway. So then when I found out about this, I was like, I'm going to go get him to move. So I went over there by myself, which my wife told me I shouldn't. She's like, what happened if he kill you? And I was like, well, then you'd be planning a funeral. But I was more upset about this guy living in my driveway and not moving than anything else. So I go over there, and he had a bunch of tools. I knew he had a bunch of tools. And I knew he was in the truck, but he didn't know I knew he was in the truck, so I kind of played dumb. So he ended up tarping this garbage area where we took all the trash. There's a whole driveway full, 4 feet tall. I posted a picture of it on my Facebook, I think. So I ripped off the tarp, and I started taking his good tools, some propane tanks, some torches, stuff like that. And I started loading up my truck, right? And so he comes out of the truck, and I woke him up. It was like 8 in the morning, and he was high. I could tell that he was high, but I wasn't scared. He was just belligerent. And he's like, what are you doing? You're stealing my stuff. And I'm like, no, this is my stuff. He's like, no, this is my stuff. I was like, no, I own this house. You were supposed to have it all done in 24 hours. Now I'm going to start removing it, and it's my stuff. If you wanted it, you should have taken it out. And I wasn't trying to take his stuff. I'm just trying to get him to go, right? So we get into this little heated arguing match or whatever, and he's like, now he's following me back and forth to his stuff, to my truck, to the stuff, He's like, you're stealing my stuff. I'm like, no, I'm just taking the stuff out of the driveway. If you want it, go take it out of here. And then he got real crazy on me. So I called the cops, and then he split, right? He split before the cops got there. The cops tagged his truck, said, hey, you can tow it in 48 hours, blah, blah, blah. So I talked to my trash guy. I'm like, this guy's not there anymore. Go get all the stuff removed. Well, when my trash guy showed up, he took the blue tarp, and he's laying on the blue tarp. Right? I love this drama. This is fun stuff to me. So he's laying on the blue tarp, and then so they're calling each other in Spanish, and I catch wind. I'm like, I'm just going to call the cops again. So I called the cops, but I'm not at location. Before, he knew I was calling the cops. Now I called the cops. I'm like, dude, this guy's here again. He won't let me into my own yard, show up. And here's a gold nugget, if that's what you guys are looking for. I call the cops a lot in squatters. We have a lot of alarms, and they go off. My alarms in all of my houses go off 2 or 3 times a week. So most of the time it's false alarms, not always. An AC stolen from me 10 days ago. And I always say, they're always like, well, are you safe, right? And my response is he's throwing stuff at me. It's fixing to get violent. Something's going to go down. I'm fixing to knock this guy out, because then they'll actually show up. Always they take an hour. I found that little trick if I say that violence is going to happen.
You're not even there.
Yeah. So I'm just like, man, they're getting into it. I think they're fixing to fist fight. I'm not sure if they pushed each other or not, but I'm pretty sure that something's going to go down. And the guy that's there, I'm telling you, he's a little gangster, and he's not going to put up with this guy. He might cut him. You might want to show up. So then they show up with 3 squads deep, and then at least they show up in 10 minutes instead of 45 minutes, right? Right. So all this is going on, and he's laying on the pile, and my guy's yelling at him in Spanish, right? I call the cops. The cops show up. And he had a warrant out for his arrest. It was easy. They ID'd him, hauled him off to jail, and we cleaned up all of his stuff.
So much for waiting 48 hours.
Well, so then the truck, some guy calls me named Julio, and he's like, hey, I bought this truck from the guy, but I went to go show up, but I'm told that the guy got arrested, but I don't have the title, and it's in the stuff that's in the driveway. Can I go through the stuff? And I was like, if you find the title in that garbage, go ahead, go through it. He goes, well, I still owe him $100, and I don't actually have the title yet. He goes, do you care if I take the truck? I'm like, I don't care if you take the truck. It's not my truck. I was going to remove it anyways. Take the truck.
You're saving me $100 getting rid of it.
Yeah. take the truck, take the trash. I don't care. So I don't know. The truck's not there anymore. I don't know if the guy's got title to it or if he stripped it out or what, but it's not on my property anymore.
You know, what's funny is like how animated you've gotten the last 15 minutes.
Oh yeah, I get excited about all the dumb drunk drama. You know. Yeah.
Well,
it's good.
Well, I'm gonna have to have you come back later and really dive in more into the dumb drunk drama. That's
I have some
podcast. Dumb drunk drama.
So much stuff in real estate that actually happens.
Give us one more.
We tried to buy a house one time. The guy said, "Hey, my deadbeat brother lives in this house. He's got 4 German Shepherds. It was boarded up in the hood." He's like, "You can go buy it, but you have to get in the property yourself." So we go to the property, and it's plywood. We have no idea what's inside. There's no power. And there's 4 dogs hitting the plywood on the inside. Boom, 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 boom. And we're like, we're not going in there. Who's going to go in this house and try to buy it? But yeah, we just bought a house this last week from, we signed a contract with somebody. He died 3 days later. There's all sorts of drama.
So like
probate drama.
In a situation like that, do you still have claim to the house?
I don't know. We have everybody signed off on it now. All the brothers, sisters, nieces, and nephews, they all signed off on to sell the house, but we haven't got to probate and the will and all that. But I'll tell you another good story. How about that? Squatters living in my house. These are the ones that told me that they had a lease. So we're like, well, let's just tell the rehab guys to go out there and rehab it and act like they don't know that they're there. And I told the rehab guys, hey, look, just spook them a little bit. Don't create a whole bunch of drama. So they had locked the doors. They wouldn't let them in the door, so he opened up the garage. There's a bunch of stuff in the garage. And the guy that went over there, he's kind of a larger guy. He opens up the door between the garage and the kitchen. And the squatters are freaking out. What are you doing in my house? And the guy, he used to have gangster in him, so he's kind of, got some East LA, and he can hold his own. He's like 6'6". You don't want to mess with him, kind of ugly looking. He opens up the door. He's like, what are you doing in my house? And now they're yelling at each other in the kitchen. What are you doing in my house? What are you doing in my house? So they run off in the room, and he's like, oh, shoot, I don't know if they got a gun back there or what. Right. And he's yelling, I got a gun. If you come out here, we're going to throw down, right? So they call the cops. My guy calls the cops. So the cops are getting called on both sides. Somebody broke into my house. They're going to kill me. Somebody broke into my house. They're going to kill me. And the Dallas police chopper flies over my house, starts doing circles with a spotlight on us in the middle of the daylight. Like 10 squad cars roll up, kick everybody out. And that was my first time I've learned how to evict somebody. But I told them, oh, thanks for keeping on the down low. Like, that's what I told them. Just kind of spook them a little bit. But next thing you know, we're on like Channel 5 News. Channel 5 News.
Do you know Fred Robertson?
No, I don't know.
So he had a house several, like 5-6 years ago. And it's okay that I talk about this as public knowledge. He talked about it on Propelio, where he bought the house. It went through all these whole stairs. He bought it. It was a Bishop Arts. Bought it for like $250. Was about $20,000 into the rehab at the time, but it was probably like a $100,000 rehab. It was probably a $500,000-$600,000 house, whatever. He was going to make a ton of money on this project. Well, his workers are in the backyard, and they're digging up a patio or something, and they start smelling something. Oh, it smells bad. They're like, his workers are like, there's some. He's like, it's just a dead animal or something. They start digging more. And it's like, it's pretty bad. It's like, oh, okay, I'll come over. And there's a plastic baggie, and they're like, well, trash bag. Let's call the police. Police show up, to a female police. Being all just policey, I guess. And anyway, so they get a shovel and they break the seal of the bag, and just this swoosh, like, oh God, the smell is just horrible or whatever. And there's a human skull. So wow. So then Fred's like, and this is my favorite part of that story. Obviously, death and murder is not funny on any level. But I can just see him talking to those officers saying, is there any way to keep this on the down low?
Yeah, right. That's the last thing you want.
And then the next thing he knows, he's got like every single news van in the front yard. There's police all over. He's got the police chopper and like 2 other news helicopters circling his property.
That's awesome.
And all I could think about is shit. And just a quick follow-up to that story, which was the guy that was dead was actually the real homeowner. Mm-hmm. And the person that killed him sold, assumed the identity to sell the property. So then he was going through all this litigation to try to figure out how to get his money back because title insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at the time, title insurance wasn't going to pay out because there's nobody staking a claim. The guy's dead.
Oh, wow.
So they're like, well, there's no claim on the property, so we can't pay you. And he's just like, but because he didn't get a hard money, he paid his own money.
Yeah, yeah.
And but I think it all worked out in the end. He was able to get his money back, but again, he was still out $20,000 for the initial rehab, but also just the money that he lost in terms of what's the economic term? Just the opportunity cost of the money that was buried in it. But
that's why it was a home run deal, right?
Yeah. Well, it ends up being Connor Steinbrook was the one that originally wholesaled the deal, and he's the one that bought it from the killer. And it's just a crazy story because he was when he was walking the property, one of the rooms was covered in foil.
Oh, really?
And he says he had a spooky moment, but whatever, hindsight.
Yeah.
But I think the lesson there is if you walk into a house and there's a room covered in foil, maybe get a black.
You want to do a whole show on, hey, this really happened in a house, like working with hoarders and squatters, and
yeah,
we bought a house one time that says I hear voices on walls and permanent marker. I have enough information. We could do a whole entire show.
What's the craziest situation you ever walked into?
Oh man. So we went to buy a package deal in Wichita Falls, and there were a lot of crackheads inside the houses. And the landlord said they would sell them to us, but they wouldn't let us in the property. So we went and knocked on all the doors with all the crackheads. One time we knocked on this door, and we walked in it. Like, if the door was open, we were letting our stuff into these houses because we had to see the inside of them. And we probably walked over 6 or 7 people just strung out with needles on their arm. And one guy looked up, and he's like, he was a little bit more vulgar, but he's like, what are you doing here? I'm like, I'm here to look at the house, And he's like, oh, and just passed out. But that house had it had 3 walls. It was missing one whole wall on it, and there was probably 8 people that we were literally walking over them to try to buy these houses. So
something straight out of a movie or something.
The lady was the lady that was selling them was kind of crazy too, and she's like, yeah, here's all the houses. There were 5 houses that burned down. She didn't even know about it. This is why you should walk houses, because might buy one that's been burned down.
Yeah, and that's one of the questions I always find fascinating is when you're doing so much volume. I'll just ask you: Have you ever forgotten you brought a property?
Oh, that's our fear. Every single year, it's our fear that we bought something, and then we own it for like a year, and we didn't know that we owned it.
Right.
So we actually have. Well, one, we're really good at knowing what we own. We have some really good processes now. But every year in January when we get our tax bills, because you get all the tax bills for houses that you own, don't own, sometimes they don't know that you transfer title, go through every single one. Let's figure out if we actually own all of these. That's I don't know if that's our best check point or whatever, but yeah. It's,
I just can imagine somebody who's maybe not in real estate that could be hearing that story, but like, wait, how would you forget that you own a property?
So back in the day, we were working with a hedge fund company. We helped them buy a house, and we looked at 2 houses, 123 Main Street, 123 Main Drive. Mm-hmm. Well, they ended up buying Main Street, but they told people that they bought Main Drive. I'm making up the address. So they rehabbed Main Drive.
Oh, shit.
Before they realized that they actually bought Main Street.
Oh, God. I wonder,
it was a new fund. It was like one of their first deals that they bought too. So imagine that looked great to the fund manager.
Oh my God! Especially if they got like 30,000, 50,000 deep into the rehab or something.
Yeah, so it actually worked out because both of those houses were from individuals that wanted to sell. So they ended up actually going back and say, "Hey, we'll just buy your house," from the person that sold it. But yeah, they rehabbed the whole entire house. And
God,
it could have not worked out.
Well, I don't want to keep you all afternoon, but I do want to ask you this. It's a silly question, but I've been having fun asking it. What if there was a movie about your life? What celebrity would play you?
Oh, I'm not really good at celebrities. I don't know. Denzel Washington. I don't know. See, that's how horrible I am at celebrities.
What's Denzel's catchphrase?
See, I'm not very good. Like, I'm not very good at this game, but Denzel, because he'd make a good Ron Carlson.
There you go.
Yeah,
I like it. Well, hey, man, I really appreciate you coming in here.
Yeah,
As
thanks for
far
having
as far as anything, what you're looking for, like people follow you, blah blah blah, or is it just for hey, I'll jump on your podcast for fun?
I mean, I'll do it for fun, but I'll do hey, this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for capital right now, capital to hold notes longer, and for our flips, we have capital available, but I'm looking for more, and I'm looking to do some bigger deals, some developments.
What's more?
Huh?
What's more?
Well, I'm just looking for different type of capital because I have short-term capital that have terms. I'm looking for long-term
Like
capital
lines
at
of
lower
credit?
interest rates. Like that 6, 7, 8% money is kind of what I'm looking for right now. I have a lot of 10 and 12% money, but I'm looking for 6 to 7% money.
Are you looking for more of a per deal transaction or just like a line of credit?
More of like a per deal transaction, like maybe somebody who has IRA money or somebody who's got 150 grand sitting around or $1 million sitting around that they want to put to work. We're pretty good at paying people back. We never not paid somebody back, and our investments are fairly they're structured around real estate, so they're asset based. But yeah, we're looking for additional capital so we can go into different markets and do some bigger things. Some communities. I told you I want to do a tiny home community. There's probably a whole nother show there, but I guess can I get my phone number?
If you want to.
Oh, so my phone number is 817-566-4346. And if I can help anybody too, obviously I always want to pour into people's life if I can. So.
Cool. Well, again, I really appreciate you jumping on here, and I enjoyed this. Hopefully you enjoyed this, and
Yeah,
hopefully we get to do it again. And just I'm totally going to kick your ass and risk.
That's all I have to say.
That's all I have to say.
Come on with it.